Okay, so example 2, it says K is the midpoint of JL. Given endpoints L and midpoint K, find the coordinates of endpoint J. So for this one, you have to be real careful when you are given this type of problems. Make sure you know what they're asking you for. Here they're not asking me to find the midpoint, so a common mistake that I have students do whenever they have this type of problem is that they'll use the midpoint formula and use these 2 points as the endpoints, but if you notice, they gave you an endpoint and the midpoint, and they're asking you to find the other endpoint, so it's different. I have the points plotted on my graph, so I have point L, that's one endpoint, and I have point K. They're asking me to find endpoint J, so really, when you connect this segment continues, and they're asking you to find where over here is the other endpoint at. That's what they're asking me. So to do that, I have to take my endpoint and I'm going to label that as x1 and y1. So my x value for the endpoint is 3, that's x1. My y value, it's -5, so that's y1. The other endpoint that I'm trying to figure out, that's x2 and y2. So this one, they're asking me endpoint J, this is x2 and y2. So that's why I cannot use this point in this formula as a y. This is a midpoint. So when you see the word midpoint, I recommend that you label that with the word, with the M and then the P. Just kind of to help you remember that that's midpoint. You're not plugging it in for x1 or x2. And so once you label all your points correctly, we do use the midpoint formula to solve this problem. And so we're going to plug in all the information that we know. We know the midpoint. That's MP. So I'm going to plug in my midpoint. My midpoint is at -1, my x value, and then the y value for the midpoint is 2. And I also know x1 and y1, so I'm going to plug that into this formula. Okay, I don't know x2 and y2, that's what I'm trying to find out. That's why I keep those in there. All I know is x1 and y1, so I'm going to plug those in. x1 is 3, so that goes here, and y1 is -5, so that goes there. Great. Now I'm going to set up 2 equations to be able to solve for the endpoint. One of the equations is going to be using the x's, so those are the ones that I have in red. All this is the x coordinates really. So I'm just going to make this all red, just kind of to color code what's happening. This is for the y's, so I'm just going to make all this blue. Alright, so I'm going to keep the x's together, so those are the red ones, and I'm going to keep the y's together, those are the blue ones. So first, an equation with the red one, I'm going to put my midpoint -1 equal to this entire thing in red. 3 plus x2 over 2. That's my first equation that I'm solving. The second equation I'm solving, it's for the y coordinates, which is the blue. I'm going to set up another equation. 2 equals, that's 2, equals this part. -5 plus y2 over 2. Okay. So I'm going to solve those 2 equations. First, this one. Every time you have something like this, like a fraction, you want to cancel the denominator by multiplying by that same number. So I'm going to multiply it by the 2, and that cancels out. And I have to do it to both sides of the equation, so I'm going to multiply it on this side also. Okay, so now I have 2 times -1. It's going to give me -2. And then on the right side, all I have is 3 plus x2. Okay. I need the x2 by itself, so all I have to get rid of is the 3. So I'm going to subtract it so that it cancels out. And again, I have to do it to both sides, so I'm going to subtract it on this side also. And so negative 2 minus 3 is going to give me negative 5. And on this side, I have x2. So this is my x coordinate for endpoint J. Now I need to find the y coordinate. So I'm going to do the same steps, multiply by 2 on both sides, so that fraction can cancel. And I have 2 times 2, that's going to give me 4. And then here I have this left. Now I need to get rid of the negative 5, so I'm going to add it to both sides. 4 plus 5 is going to give me 9. So this is my y coordinate for the endpoint. So my solution, they're asking me to find the coordinates of endpoint J. My final answer is going to be J at negative 5, my x value, comma 9, the y value. This is your final answer. That's my x, and that's my y2. Okay, you can check it by graphing it. I just wanted to show you this till the end. So I'm gonna plot that point, that's my other endpoint, at negative 5 and positive 9. This is J. And you can see that K is the midpoint of J. Another way you could figure it out, if you had no idea how to do this and I gave you a graph, you could do it by kind of calculating your rise over run. So you would move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So up 7 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you just continue the pattern. You go up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you end up at that other endpoint. So yes, this is an easier way to do it, but you have to learn this way. You have to show me the work with this way, because if I ever give you numbers that are really big that you cannot plot on a line, then you have to know how to use this formula.